out from you, who's, both in that hourly market and then internally with your company. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it's been quite different what we are seeing in both segments. And I think if we especially look back over the last 3 years, maybe to when COVID started, I mean, as an hourly marketplace, we saw impacts immediately. Our sweet spot has always been restaurant, retail, hospitality. Those were the verticals that shut down overnight, if you can remember back when COVID initially kicked off. And so for us, we saw millions of hourly workers all of a sudden displaced. And internally, we were still figuring out the best tools that we needed to build. We were still hiring. We were still figuring out what we needed to do while navigating this whole kind of move to virtual work. Then shifting into 2021, as things started to reopen, people started to rehire. We saw a boom in hourly. You probably experienced this in 2021 and 2022 also, just tech companies wanting to hire hand over fist. I mean, we were growing so much. We were trying to do so much. We had this entire new marketplace for talent open to us internally because we had made the decision to stay as a remote first company. We were fully distributed, so we could access the best talent for what we needed anywhere. But in the meantime, we were still trying to help employers figure out, okay, what's the best strategy to bring on hourly workers? And then we have seen quite a shift over the last year. I mean, tech layoffs are no surprise to anybody that I'm sure is listening to this. I'm sure you've experienced this with your own customers too. And so you have a wealth of talent that is now on the market from the tech standpoint. You've got great designers, you have product managers, you have engineers that you never would have thought might be available to work now. And so I don't know if you've experienced this, but for us, when we've started to post jobs, we are getting hundreds of applicants. Some are certainly more qualified than others, but still it is a time-consuming process to make sure we are looking at the folks that are coming in and really making sure we're giving the best fit. On the hourly side, it's been kind of the opposite. I mean, we've seen the job numbers. I'm sure, again, some of your listeners have seen the jobs report. We've been talking about this.
Confusing, I know.
It really is, because you're seeing, we're living in the tech space. We are seeing more candidates on the market than we are seeing available jobs. But when we look in the hourly space, manufacturing, construction, some of these industries that are typically a little more recession proof, we are still seeing pretty remarkable jobs numbers. What we're seeing from our customers, though, has been really interesting, especially when we look at what's happening just internally. We are finding that companies in the hourly space are still struggling to find people, but it is typically because of compensation, or because this is the type of work that people have realized maybe they don't want to do anymore because they have been able to make a career shift during COVID, or they've been able to take on a higher paying hourly job. And so there is still a lot of opportunity in the hourly space, a lot of hourly jobs, and not enough people to fill them for any number of reasons: location, compensation, the type of work that we're doing. So it's been a really interesting kind of the dynamic to navigate what we are seeing internally versus what our customers are talking about to us. I don't know, what have you seen with your customers?
Well, kind of the same in the tech space is that we've seen a lot of layoffs. Some of them have been big announcements, from Meta and the big companies. And there's been a lot that have been kind of, it's been under the radar. So a lot of companies laying off, local companies, some of the consulting firms, because they had such a hard time finding developers during these last couple of years, and the wage inflation was so high. They found other ways. They went offshore, and not just to India, which was before. They've gone down to Brazil and Mexico and places that have that are on our time zone or closer to our time zone. And we've been getting